Hi, this is Misha, and as promised, this is a video that's a closer look at the IWI, formerly known as Galil Ace, now just Ace. Specifically, we're going to look at the 5.56 versions, both the pistol here, with an 8.5 inch barrel and folding arm brace, and the rifle version here with a 16 and some change, 16 and a quarter, 16.5 inch barrel, and the military folding adjustable stock with removable cheek riser. Now, as promised in our video looking at the kind of the history of the Galil, if you haven't watched it yet, you might check that out to kind of see how we got. I said in a separate video we would talk about more of the Ace history, how it's made, and how this gun really was the beginning of the Ace. This is the Israeli Micro Galil, known as the MAR. Now, this particular one was assembled by Jeff Miller, Hillbilly Firearms, Tin Galil, using an original parts kit. I think it was actually an FBI MAR, and it was assembled on a CNC Warrior micro receiver. These receivers are kind of specialized. Now, the Micro Galil was developed beginning in the 90s and went through several evolutions before it was basically phased out in favor of the Ace around 2007, 2009, that time frame. The Micro was a pretty radical departure. If you look at the SAR, the ARM, the AR, they were all more or less designed around the same time and had a lot of the same features. But the Micro began on pretty differently and only became more different as time went by. Still built on a milled receiver. It was lightened in the front, scalloped. The bolt group was also scalloped. It took modified versions of the sights from the Israeli Mini Uzi and Micro Uzi submachine gun. This rear side is adjustable with the tool. This front side is protected with an adjustable post. Instead of having the flip apertures of the standard Galil, the tritium is just part of the sights. The early guns would have about a 7.8 inch barrel, but later they would go to an 8.5, give or take. And then even later in production, they would even offer it as an 11 inch. And there's been several other minor barrel tweaks in between. The handguards are unique to the Micro. They actually have a long screw in the front that holds them on. Very different system. There's not a front handguard retainer. Have a very short gas tube. Still have the ambidextrous safety. The folding stock mechanism is actually integrated into the rear of the receiver. Now, the first guns would have a folding stock that was essentially very thin, very polymer. It was a takeoff of the Mini Uzi stock, and frankly, in today's standards, it reminds me a lot of the stock you see on SIG's MCX. The idea was the same because they wanted it to be very thin. However, the stock did not end up being very durable, so they went to this style relatively early on, which is more tubular with a steel core, although it's still polymer, has a rubber butt plate, folds over. It's a little bit thicker than the original style, but much more durable and much stabler. Originally, the cocking handle was up tipped, just like on a standard Galil. Then they would go to this sideways style. Same with the handguards. The first handguards are very Galil style. Then they would extend them back to kind of cover the scalloped out area of the receiver. And then the late handguard, which you can see in our other video, is more of a modern pebble grain pattern. So that's really where I'm at with this one. Like I said, it's a mid-production, but then other features started to appear in the late production Micro Galils made in the 21st century. And these would be carried over to the Ace. So let's pull this gun around since it's very close in size, although this is a quote-unquote pistol. This is a quote-unquote carbine. I actually wish the brace idea was available when these were being made. This would have been much better as a braced gun. Okay, this left side charging handle, along with this spring-loaded FNC style dust cover, actually first appeared on the Micro Galil. Also, a version of a bolt hold open initially appeared on late Micro Galils. Quite interesting. And this actually required quite a bit of redesigning of both the mag well, the top cover, of course the bolt group, and so on and so forth. So from that point, the late Micro Galil, the Ace was born. Originally known as the Galil Ace when it was still being tested out. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but let's just say it was a joint project between Israel and Colombia, as both nations contributed towards it. They took the Micro and they updated it. Using the same basic handguard attachment system, they went to this handguard here, which is actually a quad rail. Just going to get it off on, there we go. It has removable rail sections, slings, there we go. See? Each side has this. You can see the screw holding it on here, same style of screw. You can fit micro handguards to these, but they require some modification to the handguard to fit properly, but it is doable. The handguard, excuse me, the gas tube is the same short length. Now they've added a pick rail that's sectional. Part of the rails up here actually are quite a short part, and then it dovetails to the top cover and the other parts back here. So we bolted on a rail on the top of the Micro. The sights are very much the same. The rear sight is almost unchanged. Tritium adjustable. The front sight has been changed a little bit. We've skeletonized these ears. We've also changed the way our sling attaches, moving the bar to the center position, but a very similar style of block. We've also gone to more modern A2 looking flash hider. The Micro Galil had more of a ported flash hider, but yeah. And at least some of the Galil Aces like this are threaded 1/2 by 28, as opposed to the original thread pattern that the Galil used, which was 13mm. Moving back, we've gone away from the Micro integrated hinge back to something similar to the original Galil. We have a machined receiver. We have lightning cuts here. But instead of being fully machined as on the original Galil, we have a polymer lower, which can be removed, but it takes some doing. Usually these are Loctited on, at least to these semi-autos, and there's a couple of screws. This version, the one we have in America, is the N version that takes NATO compatible mags. This has an Israeli mag in it. They also still make this to take the Galil mag. The safety, as you see, has been truncated. This is another holdover from the very late Micro, and of course the dust cover now comes all the way down because we don't need it to be open. This is basically a very sealed up system. And finally, we've gone to an ergonomic pistol grip with quite a large storage compartment inside. So that's the, the Ace and how it evolved from the Micro. If you look internally, they're even more similar. This bolt group, like the length of the gas piston, all that is very much the same. The gas tube links. In fact, you can take a Micro top cover and rail gas tube and put them on here if you don't want the top rail, which does save some weight actually. These also come with very decent triggers for a military gun. So that's how the evolution happened. And now today, IWI, as it became known in 2000, produces the Ace and no longer produces, of course, the original Galil. That was the pistol version. This is the carbine version with a 16-inch and some change barrel. Very similar, except we have a full-length gas system now. That's why the gas block's a little further out. Same flash hider. Same hinge in the back here with 2 roll pins to hold it on. But we have the military stock, as I showed. These are very stiff, but you get the idea. Everything else is pretty well the same. That's the only real differences. Now, this is made in many, many versions. For the first time, IWI has put a version of the Galil in 76239 into production, and we're talking military here, select fire. There is the 3132 series, so they do a version with a short barrel, 8.5, and they do a version with a 16-inch barrel. This has actually been adopted by Vietnam. There is, of course, the classic 5.56 with the modern 1-in-7 twist for the 62 grain NATO. This is done in the 21, 22, and 23. Barrel lengths are the short pistol of the 8.5. They do an intermediate length, which is analogous to the SAR, which is a 13.3, give or take. And interestingly, the long version, the 23, has an 18 and some change-inch barrels, not the 16. So they're kind of doing that same silliness that Action Arms did to us back in the 80s. They do the 16-inch barrel for America and not the military 18, which kind of bugs me. I would like this to be an 18-inch barrel, but it's not. And they also do the same guns. Those all with the 21, 22, 23 are taking the Galil mags. The N version, 21N, 22N, 23N, takes the NATO mags, such as this lower. And you can basically go between them by switching lowers out. As you see in this gun, we have a GI metal mag. This gun has the polymer. They're pretty flexible in the mags they will take. The 7.6239 versions lack the bolt hold open, but otherwise are the same, and they take standard AK-47, AKM mags. And then finally we have the 7.62 NATO 308 version. For military, there's the 51 and the 52. They do a 11-inch, and then they do a 16 and an 18, and there's even a longer one that's at least been shown off. I'm not sure if it's in production. It's like a 21 or 22. So there is a long barrel version, at least it's been tried out for the 308. And these will take standard SAR 25 type, Magpul type magazines, which is good. So all of these guns, at least the ones available in the USA, take the most common mags possible. AR-15, SR 25, and AK-47. Here we don't get all the barrel lengths and we don't get quite all the options. We just have a pistol version. The 7.6239 and the 223 is 8.5. The 308, the 7.62 NATO, is 11-inch, which makes a lot more sense. The 8.5 would be ridiculous. It's already ridiculous with an 11. And of course, the carbine versions, the 7.6239 and the 223 have 16-inch, and the 308 version is closer to 18 inches, and it has a muzzle brake versus a flash hider to help with recoil. Now, we did a video last year kind of shooting all different versions and did a range discussion. So this isn't really about that, but I would recommend you check out that video for our feelings. We have all but the 308 pistol in that video. We have all the other pistols and all the carbines, so 5 different Galils we try out. We actually shot them all day and give our feelings. So this really isn't a comparison of that. This is just really more on the 223 guns, which is really what Jay and I both have settled on. We, as we said in that video, kind of feel that the 7.6239 guns are a little punchier than they need to be. Plus, I don't know, we have plenty of AKs in that caliber, so why? 308, he has one of those and really loves it. I would probably own one if I could shoot for accuracy, but since I can't, I don't really need another 308 gun. I like the 223, the 5.56, because those are the ones that are most commonly used by militaries, and it's still in the same kind of wheelhouse as my other older Galils. We've also had perfect reliability with both this pistol and carbine. And ultimately, this will be the one I am keeping, the pistol, because it's the closest to some kind of military spec with the 8.5-inch barrel. And since we're allowed to have this brace, why not? It's as good as the stock, really. And it doesn't fall under 922R, don't have to worry about that. Very compact, very fun, and unique. And if you look at who's using these today and which versions they're using, a lot of places, especially police and special forces, are opting for this small little guy. I'm not saying that the longer versions, 13, 16, 18-inch barrel versions, aren't being used, but you actually see more different organizations, maybe in smaller numbers, but still using the shorty. And since this is basically an updated Micro Galil, what I've decided to do, I've got all three of these, and this is why we're doing this video today, kind of just for posterity. I'm going to keep this, and it's going to replace two guns in my collection. The Micro here will find the new home shortly, because it's basically the same gun, but an older styling. And I really don't need the Ace carbine, as cool as it would be to keep all of these, because I have the Vector LM5 for an SAR, and I've got a very great re-weld of an ARM done by Jeff Miller. So a little bit of a consolidation here, but before I started to find these a new home, I thought we would shoot them again, talk about them, just have a little more fun, say goodbye. Absolutely nothing wrong with this gun. It's a fantastic shooter. Safety's on. Sorry. Forgot to put it on a minute ago. But at the end of the day, you can't have everything as much as we'd all probably like to. So that is what I'm doing. I feel like the Ace pistol is a good representation of both the Ace series and the Micro series. And I still have my older Galils to keep me company. It's just a neat little gun, and this is imported from Israel. So, like most imports, who knows where the collectability level will be in years and decades to come. Some people think that IWI stuff is a little overpriced. I'm not going to argue worth, value, price. But I will say, just look what pre-ban, IMI manufactured Galils and even Uzis go for now. So I feel like there's definitely a neat little market for these, but I am definitely a shooter too, and I'm not going to keep this brand new in the box. Probably want to keep the box, just cardboard. But it seems like a good opportunity to have both a good shooter. A little string there, guys. I had to cut down this rail panel to fit. Seems like a good opportunity to have a good shooter and something that may be a little bit on the collectible side in the future. They are a lot of fun, very low recoil, very magazine forgiving, good triggers, nice ergonomics, and surprisingly, although of course they're a little loud, recoil and all that isn't bad with these pistols, although muzzle flash is, let's just say you need a flash hider. Oh, and they do come with active tritium sights from the factory, which is pretty neat. Well, this is just kind of a retrospective, I guess you would say, on the Galil Ace now. Very cool guns. Even though Israel doesn't use them, many other nations and police agencies do. And these are assembled, if you get the carbine, here in Pennsylvania at IWI-USA. If you get the pistol, they're imported at IWI-USA, where they've been made over in Israel. So, a little bit of supportive American work up there, and I know some American police departments have looked into them as well. Should be a good gun. They've got the reliability, plenty of rails, a lot of things going for these guys. Well, if you'd like to share your own Galil Ace stories, we'd love to hear them in the comments. And if you liked the video, please click like, and also, if you haven't, check out our other videos on Galils and Aces. We've got a number by now. And if you'd like to help support us get to the range a little more often, we'd love it if you'd click on the link and at least check out our Patreon page. This is Misha. These are so stiff, which is better than not being stiff, huh? And we'll catch you next time.